It's Popples. Viral news and trending stories.
Ja Morant isn't officially on the trade block, but behind closed doors, everything feels unstable. On January 14th, 2026 in Berlin, cameras captured something the Memphis Grizzlies couldn't control. During a pre-game shoot-around ahead of their NBA Berlin matchup against Orlando, Morant and teammate Vince Williams Jr. erupted into a heated verbal confrontation. Nearly 90 seconds of finger-pointing, shouting, and visible tension. Coaches and staff stepped in before it escalated further. No punches were thrown, but the message was loud. The video, first shared on X, shows Morant in a white tee and green shoes, squared up with Williams, who clutched a basketball in a number 5 practice jersey. Other players stood frozen in the background. Sponsors' logos, bright lights. A moment never meant to be public. Now, impossible to ignore. According to lip-reading breakdowns from fans and media, the argument stemmed from a practice disagreement that had clearly been simmering. Morant appeared to say, "It is what it is. Y'all don't rock with me, I don't rock with y'all." Williams gestured toward the locker room, suggesting privacy. Morant refused. "Why? I'm right here." That insistence to confront it in the open said everything. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just days earlier, ESPN's Shams Charania reported that Memphis was listening to trade offers for Morant. For the first time since drafting him second overall in 2019, the franchise was publicly entertaining life without its star. One day after the Berlin incident, Morant faced the media. When asked how he felt about the trade rumors, he didn't blink. Live with it. 2 words. Heavy. Flat. Final. Pressed again, would he still be a Grizzly after the February 5th trade deadline? Morant pushed back. Who else was asked? What did the front office say? Then he shut it down. Next question. Those words, "live with it," became the defining soundbite of his season. Not angry, not emotional, just distant. Morant was ruled out the next day with a right calf contusion. At that point, he'd played only 18 games, averaging 19 points on a career-low 40% shooting. Memphis, surprisingly, stayed afloat without him, posting a 10-9 record in his absence. The numbers raised uncomfortable questions. The silence made it louder. Neither Morant, Williams, nor the Grizzlies addressed the Berlin incident publicly, but the footage existed, and speculation exploded. Some fans brushed it off as competitive fire. Others saw something deeper, a team pulling apart. And the truth? It didn't start in Berlin. Earlier that season, tension had already surfaced between Morant and rookie head coach Hu Isalo, hired after Memphis moved on from Taylor Jenkins. Isalo inherited a roster built around Morant, but the transition was rocky. After a brutal loss to the Lakers early in the season, Morant pointed blame toward the coaching staff during his post-game interview. The message was unmistakable. The fallout was immediate. Sources described a loud, ugly confrontation between player and coach, this time in front of the entire team. Isalo didn't back down. He challenged Morant's leadership and effort head-on. Memphis responded with a 1-game suspension for conduct detrimental to the team. It wasn't just punishment, it was a signal. From that point on, the relationship fractured further. Morant reportedly felt isolated. Teammates were encouraged to give him space. Distance replaced trust. ESPN's Tim McMahon later summed it up bluntly. Morant's future in Memphis had become untenable. A stunning possibility for a franchise that once believed he was the answer. Throughout the season, signs piled up. Walking away during timeouts, visible disengagement, verbal pushback over minutes and strategy. When asked previously about having a voice in roster decisions, Morant said it himself, "My job is to play basketball. I leave that to the higher-ups." But by 2026, even that separation wasn't enough. Because when your team starts listening and your locker room starts cracking, sometimes all that's left to say is, "Those words feel different now." Morant once positioned himself as someone who stayed out of front office politics, a player focused solely on basketball. But the growing evidence suggests something else entirely, a star increasingly at odds with every major decision-maker inside the organization. The coaching confrontation didn't just expose a personality clash. It revealed a deeper problem. Memphis never truly found a system that maximized Morant. During his exit interview, Morant was asked about the team's offensive identity, specifically whether it should be built around him. He waved it off. He didn't care who the offense was designed for. His job wasn't to score 30, it was to make everyone else better. On the surface, it sounded selfless. Behind the scenes, it didn't feel that way. Some inside the organization praised the culture of accountability, but accountability cuts both ways. And when a new coach arrived demanding structure from a player accustomed to freedom, friction became inevitable. Maybe it was stylistic, maybe it was personal, maybe it was unavoidable. The injury question. No discussion about Morant's future can ignore the one factor that has followed him everywhere, his body. Once viewed as the league's most electrifying young guard, Morant is now being compared to cautionary tales like Derrick Rose and John Wall, generational talents whose careers were altered by relentless injuries. Since the 2023-24 season, Morant has played just 77 regular season games. For a franchise built around him, that's not just concerning, it's existential. This season has been especially unforgiving. The right calf contusion that sidelined him in Berlin was simply the latest entry in a long medical file. 18 games played, 19 points per game, career worst shooting efficiency. His three-point shot has dipped to levels that strain modern spacing offenses. When asked whether anything could be done to prevent the injuries, Morant was blunt. Every injury, he said, was out of his control, and he wasn't wrong. Being undercut in midair, one of the most dangerous plays in basketball, isn't something you train to avoid, but explanations don't erase perception. Around the league, a label has begun to stick: injury-prone. That label depresses trade value, it scares front offices, and it raises an uncomfortable question. How much more punishment can his body absorb? Ironically, Memphis may have answered part of that question themselves. Without Morant, the Grizzlies are 10-9 this season, competitive, functional, not collapsing. Is that organizational depth or evidence that his impact isn't as irreplaceable as once believed? The business of risk. The market has noticed. Polymarket placed Morant's odds of being traded before the February 5th deadline at 69%, a reflection of growing belief that Memphis may act before injuries further erode his value. But the financial math complicates everything. Morant earns $39.4 million this season, with 2 more years and roughly $87 million remaining. He also becomes extension eligible this summer. According to Yahoo Sports, Morant hopes for a max extension if traded. That expectation reveals the disconnect. Any team acquiring him wouldn't just be betting on his talent, they'd be betting hundreds of millions on a body that has repeatedly betrayed him. And the toll shows on the court. The gravity-defying dunks, the fearless attacks at the rim, the highlight reel chaos, they're still there, but less frequent. Replaced by hesitation, self-preservation, a player learning, perhaps unwillingly, that survival matters more than spectacle. Asked about his mindset after the injury-plagued season, Morant tried to stay positive. He said he was grateful, excited for what was next. But optimism fades quickly when reality intrudes. That happy Ja everyone feared, he didn't become unstoppable, he became fragile. The trade market emerges. With speculation swirling, one question dominates the league. Where would Ja Morant go? According to Shams Charania, Memphis is seeking draft capital and young talent. But insiders caution the return won't resemble a typical superstar haul. No treasure chest of first-round picks, no franchise-altering windfall. More likely, a deal closer to recent salary-focused trades. And one destination keeps resurfacing: Miami. The buzz isn't accidental. In late December 2025, reports emerged that Morant purchased a $3.2 million home in Miami, acquired through a trust and located about 20 minutes from Kaseya Center. The timing raised eyebrows. The rumors only grew louder. According to Yahoo Sports, Morant has long admired Erik Spoelstra and values the vet's veteran culture after years of turbulence. He also reportedly has aspirations of playing for Team USA at the 2028 Olympics, where Spoelstra's influence matters. Anthony Chiang later confirmed preliminary discussions between Miami and Memphis had already taken place. Nothing finalized, nothing promised. But the league is watching. Because when a franchise player starts buying property elsewhere, and the locker room starts splintering, no clean exits. The conversations, for now, haven't escalated. Sources describe Miami's interest as preliminary, cautious, more due diligence than pursuit. The Heat are watching, not lunging, and that restraint says as much as anything else. Because even if the attraction feels mutual, the questions refuse to go away. Miami's culture under Erik Spoelstra demands defense, discipline, and sacrifice. Traits Morant hasn't consistently embodied during the turbulence in Memphis. Any deal would also force the Heat to surrender real value, names like Tyler Herro included, for a return layered with uncertainty. And Miami isn't alone. Sacramento has explored the idea of pairing Morant with an already guard-heavy roster. Milwaukee has appeared in hypothetical scenarios, raising visions of Morant next to Giannis, electrifying, but ball-dominant and awkward in execution. Toronto has surfaced in constructions involving young guards and picks. The Clippers, Bulls, Timberwolves, mentioned, floated, evaluated, then often dismissed. Because Morant's trade value is complicated. Injuries scare teams. Inefficient shooting doesn't help, and the suspension for conduct detrimental to the team introduces questions front offices never like answering. According to The Athletic, Morant has privately told teammates and other players that he doesn't want to play for Memphis anymore. If true, the situation shifts from speculation to urgency. Observers have drawn parallels to Jimmy Butler's final days, when disengagement turned into inevitability. The Grizzlies know that script. They also know Morant hasn't publicly demanded a trade. Not yet. So both sides wait. A delicate standoff. Who blinks first? The deadline. February 5th looms like a verdict. If no deal materializes, Morant and the Grizzlies may be forced to coexist in a relationship defined by mistrust, resentment, and unresolved conflict. In an earlier exit interview, Morant was asked how close Memphis was to championship contention. His answer hinged on one condition: if everybody's bought in. That phrase lands differently now. Since then, the locker room has fractured. There have been suspensions, confrontations, trade rumors aired publicly. Trust, once assumed, now feels optional. For Memphis, every path forward is painful. Trading Morant means admitting the championship window never truly opened. Keeping him means betting that injuries fade, relationships heal, and accountability stops feeling like punishment. GM Zach Klayman has said the season wasn't good enough and that the organization must stay open-minded. Diplomatic words masking an existential choice. Do they rebuild around Jaren Jackson Jr., stockpile assets, or attempt one last reconciliation with the star they built everything around? Morant, for his part, still believes. After last season's playoff loss, he insisted he had the opponent figured out. That one missed game changed everything. That confidence, bordering on delusion, cuts both ways. It fuels greatness. It also blinds. Social media has offered glimpses into his mindset. Cryptic posts, messages about loyalty thinning out, about smoke clearing and discovering who really remains. Isolation doesn't arrive suddenly. It accumulates. What comes next? The league context adds pressure. The Eastern Conference lacks a dominant power. A healthy Morant next to Bam Adebayo in Miami could shift the balance overnight. Out west, where Memphis lives, the path is steeper. Oklahoma City and Houston have surged. The margin for error has vanished. Every interested team must answer the same question. Is Morant a solution or simply a different problem? For Morant himself, this is a crossroads. Reinvention or confirmation. Redemption or repetition. The talent still flashes when he's healthy, but the concerns are permanent residents. Defense, shooting, durability, leadership, trust. And yet, he's still just 26. History allows for second acts. Kobe was once labeled uncoachable. Chris Paul bounced between teams before redefining his legacy. The path exists, but only if Morant chooses it. February 5th will arrive. A decision will be made. He'll either leave Memphis or remain in a place that has publicly admitted it's listening to offers for him. Neither outcome offers peace. What is certain is this: the player who entered this season will not be the one who exits it. Something has broken, or maybe something has finally been revealed. The altercation in Berlin wasn't the beginning, it was the eruption. And those two words, spoken flatly, almost quietly, may define this entire chapter.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe.